definitely not often. A lot of times mental illness is mental illness, something you have chosen to learn and grow and access, and it 100% is either a chemical thing, a medical thing, a hormonal thing. So no, not often at all. Once in a while, it can be caused, manic type states can be caused by participating in a much higher energy or accessing something you shouldn't access. I think sometimes that's why some substances can trigger mental illness, because it brings you into a different level of energy and not in a good way. But no, definitely not often. Occasionally, I think, is a better word.
Okay, so this question, we kind of dickered about how exactly to put forth to answer properly because the person gave a very long explanation. So what they want to know is, if you're seeing spirits, can they look or appear different depending on how you see them?
Okay. So yes, they can look different to all different people. I choose, when I have them in the room with me, for them only to look like energy. I don't want to see their physical body. They say I'm okay saying this because it creeps me out. I'm human and it freaks me out. I don't like it. So I'm okay with seeing their energy. So I can see kind of an energy outline with quite colorful energy within that outline. If I tune into the other side, I see them as a physical being. As a person, I see them exactly how they were when they left this world at the beginning of a reading. As the reading continues on, sometimes they change to look how they actually do look on the other side. Like if they died when they're 80, they're not going to want to look 80, but when they first come through, they will. Or if they passed away and they've been in a wheelchair their whole life, when they first come through, they'll sometimes show themselves in a wheelchair or show themselves standing next to a wheelchair to show that they can stand. But definitely when I'm tuned into the other side, it's a physical person. If you're not like me and you occasionally see a spirit, sometimes it's just a shadow out of the corner of your eye. Sometimes it's just a bit of energy or a shift in energy or an outline that you're like, oh, that's weird. Sometimes it's just a feeling. This specific question, I hope she doesn't mind. She asked a specific question about her childhood. So when she watches this, I'm going to give you your answer. The answer is yes. That spirit was who you thought it was, and it was the reason you got to see that is because you were a young child. And you needed some hope and protection. Very high energy spirits will come through like that, where they're colorful and bright, and especially children can see that, almost glowing. And then spirits like angels, who are a very high energy on the other side, can actually completely take a human form. So they can take a human form to pull somebody out of a car crash, or like move somebody from one spot to another out of the way of danger if your soul has chosen not to take that exit point. So they can look very different. They say they say we can look like anything, pretty much. We can make ourselves look like anything. There are some commonalities and things they will continuously do, but literally they have the ability to show up in any dang way they feel.
So the next part of that, I think you've answered, but I'll read it just in case you want to elaborate. Do different types of spirits show themselves in different ways, or is it different for everybody?
It is different for every single person. Everybody, like me, chooses what they choose and how they want to see it and what they're comfortable with. When you're a person without any gifts or abilities, they look more similar. Like sometimes they'll actually look like a person, or it'll be like a shadow in your peripheral. But for each different person, they can look different or the same if that person so chooses.
Okay, I'm going to ask both questions at once. What does it feel like to die? And why is it that some people appear peaceful and other people appear scared or anxious?
My God, you're like, what does it feel like to die? Like, that's a really big question. Again, and I think I've said this a few times, it just feels like going home. That's after, the moment after death. The moments before death, and I think that's more what this person is meaning, rather than that moment you die, what do you see and what does it feel like? The moments before can look very different for a lot of people. Some people choose to stay in their bodies and go through physical pain or suffering or fear. Some people choose that their soul will leave their body a couple of seconds before that. People will react different ways as well. They say specifically I think people want to know about people that look like they're uncomfortable. Their physical body is in some kind of pain or discomfort. That type of thing, it really is just the physical body. The person is no longer suffering with that. The physical body is just needing to let go. But any type of fear, anxiety, anything like that, it's just your human self, and it's so fleeting. So even though like an hour to the people with the person dying seems like forever, to that soul, it's like that, and then they're on the other side. But that second of death, that second they let go, they get to go home, and it's very peaceful and wonderful. As of yet, I have not had one soul on the other side, one person who passed that talked about their passing in a negative way, other than just to show me what happened. So maybe they died in a freaky, tragic, negative kind of way. They'll show me what happened, but they won't show it to me with any type of fear or anxiety attached to what happened.
Okay. This is kind of a different one. Do your friends and family bombard you with questions now that they know all your gifts?
Sometimes, yeah, a lot of people, yes. I have some that are too scared to ask me because they don't want to annoy me. I have some that ask me all the time. But I enjoy it. I don't mind it at all. And I have definitely developed boundaries. You know, if I'm tired, well, you know this, if I'm tired, I just say, I'm not connecting right now, I'm tired. Or my mom's good with this. She'll message and say, oh, there's something I want you to think about. And she'll give me a few days or however long. If it's more urgent, she'll let me know. But give me a few days to go, okay. At some point I will think about it, because I prefer to think about things like that or try and get answers when I am connecting. So like maybe in my meditation before a reading, nighttime, it's almost useless to ask me questions because I won't answer them because it actually wakes me up to connect with the other side. But I definitely don't have to connect as much anymore to get the answers, because I'm kind of always connected and it doesn't affect my energy as much. So people will ask me things and the answer will just automatically come. And then sometimes I don't know the answers, or it's not something they're meant to know. I have some family or friends that might like push the boundaries and want to know more than I'm willing to tell, but I'm perfectly comfortable now saying, sorry, that's not for you to know right now, and I'm not answering it. But definitely it's fun for everybody and it's exciting. So definitely a lot of people ask me a lot of questions.
And how supportive is the rest of your family?
Most of my family is 100% supportive. A couple of them, it took a little more convincing. I think probably my dad would, it's not that he's not supportive, it's that he has more of a fear of me being hurt or something happening, you know, like somebody saying negative stuff about me or attacking me. So his is more of a protection thing than a not believing in it thing. He thinks like some things just shouldn't, we don't need to know. But most of my family is very supportive. A small group of my family, extended family, is not so supportive just because they don't like the knowledge that I get sometimes, I think. But most of my friends and family, at least the ones I have now, are very supportive. I think I've mentioned this a few times. I did lose a friend, or kind of a group of friends, when all this started, but most of them are quite supportive.
Now the table's
All
turned.
right. So she doesn't get as many questions. There's just a few for her, and her answers will probably be shorter. My mom, I don't think you've ever done something like this, right?
No, never. No.
So I'm well versed at this whole talking to a camera thing. Her, not so much, but I think it'll be a little interesting. So I just kind of put out there on my Facebook page yesterday if anybody would have questions for this video, general ones, or also questions for my mom, because she was going to do a video with me for the first time. So they did have a few for my mom, some about raising me and that kind of stuff. So I'll just get into it. All right, so did you know from an early age that there was something special or different about me?
Oh, you were special. No.
In a good way or a bad way?
No. Actually, you were just a pretty normal child. There wasn't anything really like spectacular. And if you were at that point speaking with spirits, I wouldn't have thought there was anything unusual about it, because I have always believed that young children have a communication for a while after they're born. How long, I'm not sure, but you know, so there wasn't anything that said, oh, she's going to grow up and be a medium. No.
I'm just going to add something in. Was there an age where you did think that there was something different?
when you started talking about things. Because you have to realize that what you were seeing also, like even say in people, you've told me that you've, like when you look at people, they're kind of sparkly and there's colors, and so that was your normal. So why would you talk about your normal? We don't go around saying, oh, someone's sparkly blue today and yesterday they were yellow, like you just don't do that. So, no, there was just really nothing to show
All right.
that you had these gifts until you started to actually go out to school and come home and you'd say things. I can give a specific example. You did come home a couple of times and say you knew that this thing was going to happen or that thing. And I'd always be like, well, is this true? What's going on with her? So what I did was I told you next time to tell me before the event happened. And one morning you got up and you tried to make a ton of excuses why you didn't want to go to school. And, I was a working mom and I needed to go to work, and so you had to go to school. And there was really nothing that I could determine was wrong with you. And I said, why don't you want to go to school? And then you said, because somebody's going to get hurt and there's going to be lots of blood. So then I told you that, of course, then you really did need to go to school because perhaps you could pinpoint who this was going to happen to and maybe do something to prevent it. And you were probably 7 or 8. You weren't very old. And so that was a big burden to put on your shoulders, but I obviously wouldn't know who it was going to happen to. And you went to school that day, and if I remember correctly, there was a kid that jumped off the swing and broke his leg, and the bone came through the leg, and there was a lot of blood.
Yeah.
So then I had to say, okay, yeah, I need to pay attention. You weren't that interested in sharing a lot.
After that, I remember
No,
that. That was
no.
very traumatic, and that was at the age, I think, that I shut it off.
Yeah.
And I was able to keep it off till I was about 13. Puberty does something to people like me where your energy shifts, but I think from 7 to about 13, I wasn't able to see people
Yeah.
differently, and I didn't. It was not fun.
Yeah.
They want to know if you are intuitive.
Somewhat, but nothing like Amber. In my family, we just kind of know. I guess it is intuition.
Yeah.
We just kind of know. I don't live near my sisters, and I didn't, and nor my parents when they were alive. And sometimes you just get a feeling you need to pick up the phone. And we were all kind of like that. My sisters and my mom and I, we all had that where you'd just pick up the phone and it'd be like, oh, I'm so glad you called. I just had the worst day, or this happened, or, I've had to make this decision. So in that way, yeah, a little bit.
I think especially the women in our family are quite
Yeah.
connected in that way.
Yeah.
Maybe it runs more in women's side at least in our situation. I skipped a question. They want to know how you took the news of my gifts.
Oh, I was pretty excited. This is really great. I mean, I had seen it in her as a child that she had something that the rest of us didn't seem to have, some knowledge, and she has always seen people. As far back as I can remember, Amber has seen people, but it actually wasn't until she really developed her gift and accepted it and we were talking about it, that I realized years before I used to see people, but a lot of the time it would happen when I was driving. And if you're driving along and all of a sudden someone's standing in front of your vehicle and you slam on the brakes and there's nobody there, you're a danger on the highway. So I kind of turned that off. I still see people when I go to bed at night. My sister and I, both of us, we do. But, that's just our norm.
Well, and even though I only turned my gifts on or accepted them 16 months ago or something, probably about the 5 years leading up to that, I talked about it a lot more.
Yes.
Her and I researched, because I knew I had the gifts. I didn't know how to talk back and forth. And so we looked up a couple of people like coaches or something. I never ended up following through with it, but she did nag me quite a few times. Like, you keep saying that this is going on, and why don't you do something about it now? But my kids were young, and so it was very busy. But so it wasn't like I shocked all of them, you know, like it wasn't a huge surprise that, okay, this is my life now and I'm changing everything
Yeah.
about our relationship.
No, we actually were very happy. I was really happy that she finally developed it because she had been, and accepted it, because she had been kind of an angry teenager and wasn't happy in her life 100%. You know, there was just so many things that she wasn't content with. And so there had to be something more that she needed to accept in her life before she knew her path. And this was it.
It's a pretty big it.
Yeah, this is a pretty big it.
Well, you kind of talked about this already, but how did you help me with my gifts as a child and now as an adult?
Well, when I realized that as a child, I tried to make her not afraid because that was a big thing, fear. You know, you wake up and someone's standing at your bed, or someone's waking you up in the night, or you're playing with your friends and someone's standing there watching that, you know, isn't interacting. It's scary to a child. So I tried to tell her that she had the power. She could tell them to leave her alone. She could tell them to go away. She could tell them they didn't belong here. You know, I just tried to encourage her in that way, to make it past that sort of stage, which she used to hate me saying it's just a stage.
I hated that. Like, my life is not a stage. Everything's a stage to you. It's not a stage. That's my least favorite phrase that she used.
But I just tried to I actually had hoped at that time that she would, you know, delve into it a little deeper herself, but she wasn't ready. And when she was ready, she jumped in with both feet. I didn't really have to help her.
No.
She just was like, okay, I have to go with this route. And it's pretty scary because you've grown up, you've gone to university, you're working, you're a mom, and all of a sudden you're going to quit your job and you're going to, you know, start this new life. So we were all encouraging towards her doing that and being successful.
I think the one thing too that she's very encouraging about is I'm still a self-doubter. You know, like when I made that live event, my thought was 40 people, and she would reach for the moon. She would be like, nope, 500 people if you could. She knows I'm not ready for that. But she really encourages me to even go out of my own comfort zone, because you do get, like, I get kind of protection stuff around me. And she always, more so than me, anytime I do something new, a new way of connecting or a different group or doing these videos, always she's like, oh, I know it's going to be successful. It's going to be totally fine. You underestimate yourself. So she's always encouraging me to take that next step with everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for parents raising their own energetically sensitive children now that you know what you do about me?
All you can do is listen, educate yourself a little bit with what potentially could be going on, and encourage them to, you know, to go for the right things and the good things. Because some people tend to want to go to the dark side when these things start happening, and it's not bad, it's good. You know, it's all good if that's what you look for. And you just have to encourage them to be at peace with themselves. And if they're uncomfortable, and if it's spiritual involvement, to tell them that the spirits need to leave them alone right then. Set their guidelines,
Yeah.
which Amber has talked about it earlier, how she has had to set guidelines with when, you know, the spirits come and when, you know, when she goes out in public. Because at first she didn't have that barrier, now she does. And that's the same thing with the children. Be comforting, be supportive, and believe them. You know, like, really, you need to believe what they say, because children can't make up this stuff.
Definitely I couldn't, let me tell you. Are there any traits that you noticed in me as a little girl which you didn't realize was the result of my gifts, but now you do?
Well, actually, that's a really tough question, because I can't really think of anything that stands out that said, yes, you had this gift, other than what I've already talked about. You know, I don't think there was, you know, like, you weren't running around telling people stuff.
Your grandma's gonna die tomorrow. I did not do that kind of stuff.
No, she kept it pretty much to herself. She internalized a lot of it and then just really made herself miserable, and just sort of tried to hide it from the world, because anytime she'd say things, friends and sisters can be mean, and they'd tell her she was crazy.
It felt a little crazy at times.
Yeah, and so you need to learn how to, you know, she needed to learn how to keep herself balanced mentally, as well as coping with all of this. I don't know, I can't think of like anything that just stands out that I'm like, oh, my daughter's going to grow up to be a medium and an empath and a psychic, and no, nothing. But, you know,
All right.
we're really glad she did.
Me too. So that is the end of our questions for today. If you all could do me a big favor and like this video, comment on it, share it with your friends so that it can continue to kind of move around, and so we can keep getting questions for the YouTube videos, just because those live videos I did are actually really, really easy, but I do like the format of this, sitting down and answering questions like this. If you have more questions for my mom, I'm sure she'd love to come back and answer them.
Of course.
Because it's her favorite. But definitely like, comment, and share, and if you have any other questions, for sure send them through. I will mention, I actually am not taking any readings right now. I'm fully booked till the end of June, and my live event is now sold out. But let me know, if you're not from Nanaimo, if you're from somewhere else on the island or the mainland, let me know if you think something like my live event would do well where you live. Because if this one goes well, maybe I'd be open to kind of going around a little bit and doing a couple more. Or even if you're interested, if you didn't get a ticket for the one in Nanaimo on May 18th, maybe you're interested in having another one here. Just let me know. It's always good to get suggestions, and I'm so open to feedback. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.